Welcome to Evacuation and Rescue Training. At the end of this training, participants will have knowledge about evacuation and rescue. By the end of this training, participants will be able to acknowledge what is a disaster, emergency, evacuation, rescue, what our employers and employees' responsibilities are, and what to do in an emergency situation like fire or earthquake. This training applies to employees who will be part of search and rescue and evacuation teams established under the Regulation on Emergency Situations in Workplaces. Emergency situation: events that may occur in the entire workplace or a part of it, such as fire, explosion, natural disaster, requiring emergency response, intervention, first aid, or evacuation. Emergency plan: a plan that includes information and actions to be taken in the event of an emergency at the workplace. Safe location: a designated area or shelter located at a safe distance from the emergency situation to protect employees from its adverse effects. Search: the process of locating a person trapped during a fire or earthquake. Rescue includes the rescue of victims and the provision of first aid in natural disasters, building collapses, incidents at high places, or other incidents requiring the removal of injured persons. Extraction includes the removal of victims trapped or stranded inside or around man-made machinery and equipment and the provision of initial medical care. Disasters are the consequences of natural, technological, or human-induced events that cause physical, economic, and social losses for people, disrupt or interrupt normal life and human activities, and affect communities in such a way that the affected community cannot cope with them using its own resources and capabilities. Effects of disasters categorized as direct effects, indirect effects, and secondary effects. Here are the direct impacts: loss of life, injuries, infrastructure damage, property damage, loss of livestock and agricultural products, losses of cultural heritage and museum collections, rescue, first aid, and temporary shelter expenses, medical treatment, food and clothing expenses, repair costs for various damages to structures. Indirect effects: production losses incurred due to the temporary or permanent closure of workplaces, service losses incurred due to the interruption of health, education, and other public services, revenue losses incurred due to short-term or long-term business losses in the production, tourism, trade, and service sectors, price increases resulting from production and service shortages. Secondary effects: market losses resulting from production or supply losses, excessive demand and price increases that may result from the concentration of all resources in the disaster area, decrease in monetary resources and disruption of the payment balance. According to the Regulations on Emergency Situations in Workplaces, an emergency situation refers to events that may occur in the entire workplace or a part thereof, such as fire, explosion, spread of hazardous chemical substances, or natural disasters, which require immediate intervention, response, first aid, or evacuation. According to the Regulations on Fire Protection in Buildings, an emergency situation refers to events classified as disasters, as well as situations resulting from negligence, lack of precaution, intent, or various other causes. Evacuation is the action of quickly and systematically moving people from a dangerous environment to a safe assembly point, starting when the fire safety officer thinks it's necessary and happening at the same time as the response. It's super important for places like hospitals, schools, hotels, movie theaters, shopping malls, and other crowded spots, but it's also necessary for any place where people are. Escape route: the entire continuous and unobstructed exit path from any point in a building or structure to a safe area is referred to as an escape route. Fire and other emergency situations are equipped with sufficient escape routes to ensure that users can evacuate quickly. Escape routes and other measures are designed in such a way that life safety in fire or other emergency situations is not dependent on a single measure. In emergencies, the structure must be designed, equipped, maintained, and operated in such a way as to protect users from the dangers posed by heat, smoke, and panic during evacuation. Escape routes shall be arranged in a manner suitable for the type, user load, fire protection level, structure, and height of the existing structure, so as to provide adequate escape opportunities for all users. Escape routes must be designed and maintained in such a way that they are freely accessible from all parts of the existing structure. Locks, bolts, or similar components that obstruct free escape shall not be installed on exits or doors. However, necessary safety measures shall be taken for protective safety purposes. Each exit must be clearly visible, and the route leading to the exit must be clearly visible in such a way that any healthy user can easily understand the direction in which to escape from any point. Any door or route leading to an exit that does not qualify as an exit must be arranged or marked in such a way that it cannot be confused with a real exit. In the event of a fire or any emergency, measures must be taken to prevent users from accidentally entering dead-end areas and to ensure direct access to an exit or exits without having to pass through occupied rooms or areas. Escape routes are the entire continuous and unobstructed path from any point in a building to the street level. Escape routes include exits from rooms and other independent spaces, corridors, and similar passageways on each floor, floor exits, staircases leading to the ground floor, and paths from stairwell openings on the ground floor to the final exit on the same floor, including the final exit itself. Escape route doors must not obstruct the movement of users. Escape doors must open in the direction of escape. Escape route doors must be manually operable, unlocked, and free of thresholds. Revolving doors and turnstiles cannot be used as escape doors. Rescue. The rescue team is formed to carry out life and property rescue operations in the event of a fire. In emergencies, it first attempts to rescue people, then, with the assistance of others present, it moves documents, files, and other items that need to be rescued first to parts of the building that are not at risk of burning. The general evacuation of the burning building should begin upon the order of the fire department commander or the highest-ranking local authority present at the scene. Rescuer should not put themselves in danger to provide assistance. They should note the names and numbers of the injured. They must obtain the necessary information about the buildings to be searched. They must not enter areas where safety cannot be confirmed. Ensure that electricity, natural gas, and water systems are shut off in buildings where searches will be conducted. If mobility is limited, they must avoid dangers that could endanger their life while exiting, such as broken electrical wires, gas leaks, broken glass. If they find an injured person, they should secure them and administer first aid promptly. Extrication of the casualty. For victims who can walk, or even walk with minimal assistance, minimal help may be sufficient to move them to a safe environment. Walking is perhaps the least labor-intensive of all transportation methods. Depending on the condition of the casualty, 1 or 2 rescuers may be required. Transportation by one person. The injured person's body should be pulled in the direction of the long axis, not sideways. Avoid bending the injured person. If the injured person is lying on the ground, pull them by the neck or shoulders, not by their clothing. It may be easier to first pull the injured person onto a blanket and then drag the blanket. Unless there is an immediate danger to the injured person or rescuers, the injured person should not be moved before initial medical assistance is provided. The injured person should be kept in the same place until the first aid team arrives. Emergency transportation is only necessary in the following situations: fire or fire hazard in the immediate vicinity, the presence of explosive or other hazardous materials. The accident site cannot be secured. The injured person is having a heart attack and needs to be transported to another location for artificial respiration and cardiac support. The greatest danger in quickly moving an injured person is the risk of worsening spinal injuries. In extreme emergency situations, saving a life takes precedence over preventing potential spinal injuries. Moving with multiple people. When attempting to lift and transport adults, it is always best to have 2 or more rescuers present. One rescuer can safely carry a small child alone, but 2, 3, or even 4 rescuers may be needed when carrying a large adult. Transporting an unconscious casualty is always more difficult. The injured person is unable to assist in any way, and their relaxed body is in a state of dead weight. Safety rules. Maintain contact with the field leader who is in charge of search and rescue teams. Keep an eye out for fire conditions that could affect search teams and groups. Keep a separate group on standby at all times to assist teams and groups in need of help. Use the existing worker control system without exception. Consider a second exit route. Use fully equipped personal protective equipment, including respiratory devices and emergency equipment. Work in teams of 2 or more workers and maintain constant contact. Rescuers are responsible for themselves and each other. To perform an effective search and reduce the likelihood of getting lost, conduct the search systematically. Stay close to the ground and move carefully while searching. Stay alert and use all your senses. Continuously monitor the structural integrity of the building. Before opening doors, touch them to check for excessive heat. Mark the doors you enter and remember the direction you turned when entering the room. When leaving the room to exit the building, turn in the opposite direction. In situations where visibility is reduced, maintain contact with the wall. Members of search teams can work together to increase the distances they can reach using ropes and straps. When working on a floor where there is a fire, keep a hose filled with water ready whenever possible. It can also be located directly below and directly above the floor where the fire is. The hose line can be used both as a guide for escape and for fighting the fire. Before opening windows to vent heat and smoke during a search, coordinate with the ventilation team. If you encounter a fire during the search, close the door, report the conditions, and follow the field leader's instructions. Immediately notify the site leader of any rooms that need to be searched for any reason. Report to the site leader immediately upon completion of the search. When reporting search complete, also report the status of the fire and the condition of the building. Employer's responsibilities. The employer's obligations regarding emergency situations are specified as: assess potential emergencies that may arise and affect employees and the work environment by considering the work environment, materials used, work equipment, and environmental conditions, and identify possible emergencies in advance. Take preventive and mitigating measures to minimize the adverse effects of emergencies. Conduct necessary measurements and assessments to protect against the adverse effects of emergencies. Prepares emergency plans and ensures that drills are conducted. Assign and ensure the availability of a sufficient number of employees who are trained in prevention, protection, evacuation, firefighting, first aid, and similar matters, taking into account the size of the workplace, the specific hazards it poses, the nature of the work performed, the number of employees, and other persons present at the workplace, and ensure that they are always available. Makes the necessary arrangements to ensure communication with organizations outside the workplace, particularly in matters of first aid, emergency medical intervention, rescue, and firefighting. The employer shall make the necessary arrangements to ensure that energy sources and systems that could pose a hazard are deactivated in such a way as not to create adverse conditions or affect protective systems in emergency situations. Informs the employees of subcontractors and temporary employers, if any, as well as other persons present at the workplace, such as customers and visitors, about emergency situations. The responsibilities of employees specially assigned to emergencies do not eliminate the employer's obligations on this matter. Employees' duties and responsibilities. Employees' responsibilities in emergency situations are specified as: comply with preventive and restrictive measures taken in accordance with the emergency plan. Immediately notify the nearest supervisor, the person responsible for emergency situations, or the employee representative when encountering an emergency situation at the workplace that may endanger the health and safety of themselves or others. Comply with the instructions of teams arriving at the scene from the employer or relevant external organizations to resolve the emergency. Act in a manner that does not endanger their own life or the lives of their coworkers during emergencies. The employer shall provide employees with the opportunity to intervene, within the scope of their knowledge and available technical equipment, to prevent unwanted outcomes in situations where they face a serious and imminent danger to their own safety or the safety of others and are unable to immediately notify their supervisor. In such cases, employees shall not be held liable for their interventions unless they act negligently or recklessly. Identification of emergency situations. Emergency situations that may occur in the workplace are determined by taking the following matters into consideration. Results of risk assessments. fire, spread, and explosion risks associated with hazardous chemical substances, incidents requiring first aid and evacuation, the likelihood of natural disasters occurring, possibility of sabotage, preventive and restrictive measures. The employer shall take the necessary measures to prevent damage that may be caused by identified possible and probable emergency situations and to limit their greater effects. When determining measures to protect against the adverse effects of emergency situations, measurements and assessments are carried out as necessary. The measures taken shall be consistent with the principles of risk prevention and prioritize collective protection. If there are elderly, disabled, pregnant individuals, or children in the workplace, measures are taken to ensure they are accompanied during evacuation. When developing emergency response and evacuation procedures, the provisions of the regulation on the protection of buildings against fire are taken into account. When establishing emergency response and evacuation procedures, other individuals who may be present at the workplace, such as customers and visitors, are also taken into consideration. Determination of employees to be assigned. The employer shall provide the following services to workplaces classified as highly hazardous, hazardous, and low hazard in the notice determining hazard classes in workplaces: search, rescue, and evacuation, firefighting. For each of the following subjects: search, rescue, and evacuation, firefighting. If there are more employees than these numbers in the workplace, one more support person shall be assigned for every 30, 40, and 50 employees according to the hazard class. The employer shall assign support personnel in accordance with the principles of the first aid regulations. In workplaces where more than one employee must be assigned for each subject, these employees shall work in teams in a coordinated manner according to their subjects. Each team shall have a team leader. The employer shall designate a responsible person from among the employees to ensure the necessary coordination between teams in emergency situations. In workplaces with fewer than 10 employees and classified as low risk, appointing one person to fulfill the obligations specified in the first paragraph is sufficient. Drill. In order to ensure that the implementation steps of the emergency plan are regularly monitored and that it is feasible, drills shall be conducted at least once a year at workplaces, audited, reviewed, and necessary corrective and preventive action shall be taken. A drill report is prepared, including the date of the drill, identified deficiencies, and the adjustments to be made in accordance with these deficiencies. Based on the results of the drills, emergency plans are reviewed and necessary corrections are made according to any shortcomings identified and lessons learned. Drills in workplaces located in business centers or industrial complexes are conducted under the coordination of the management. Here are emergency examples: fire, hazardous material incidents, flooding and flash floods, storm, hurricane, earthquake, communication failures, significant loss of customers or suppliers, explosion. A fire is an uncontrolled combustion event that occurs outside of intentional burning for a specific purpose. If you catch fire, smoke is more deadly than fire. Immediately get down low. Cover your face with a wet towel. Crawl toward a safe exit. Do not open a hot door. If you are trapped somewhere, close the door and block the bottom with wet cloths. If the fire between you and the exit is small, quickly move toward the exit. If you notice your clothing catching fire, shout for help. If you are caught in a fire, stop, lie down, roll. Stop. Running will cause the oxygen in the air to fuel the flames. Lie down. If you stand up, the flames will quickly rise toward your vital organs. Roll on the ground to extinguish the fire. If you see someone else on fire, stop them, lay them down, and roll them. The areas of the fire extinguisher. Pressure gauge indicates whether there is sufficient pressure in the fire extinguisher. Pin must be pulled out before using the fire extinguisher. Nozzle must be aimed at the source of the fire. Hose should be flexible, high quality, and easy to use. Label indicates the type of fires the fire extinguisher is designed for and how to use it. Date label indicates the expiration date. Causes of fires. Ignorance. Many tools, equipment, and materials that we use to make our lives easier or in the production process can cause fires. especially when we do not know enough about them. Negligence and neglect. Failing to take necessary precautions in a timely manner despite being aware of potential hazards, delaying such precautions, creating conditions conducive to fire, failing to provide warning information, or ignoring warning signs. Carelessness. Failing to recognize potential hazards, disregarding them, or ignoring them. Accidents. Fire causes resulting from unintended events. Spread. The uncontrolled spread of fires or fires lit for specific purposes. Examples include campfires, burning stubble, or scrap metal. Natural phenomena. Lightning strikes, sunlight, wind, and heat waves, as well as decay, can all be considered potential causes of fires. Sabotage. Fires intentionally started with the aim of causing damage. Fire detection systems. Fire detection sensors installed throughout the entire factory. Smoke detectors, beam detectors, heat detectors, emergency buttons. Enable the system to detect fires at their point of origin during the initial stages. Fire extinguishing systems. Fire extinguishing devices. These devices, located in various areas of the factory depending on their location, contain dry chemical powder, carbon dioxide, and foam with capacities ranging from 6 kilograms to 50 kilograms. The use of these devices is covered by firefighting team training. The person who first sees the fire and has received training on this regard uses the device to prevent the fire from spreading and notifies the relevant parties via emergency buttons. What is an earthquake? It refers to the tremors caused by the energy released when the deep layers of the Earth's crust break and shift, unable to withstand geological pressure, and spread across the Earth's surface in waves or when volcanoes erupt. Family Disaster Preparedness Plan. Hold a family meeting. Identify safe locations. Identify exit routes. Preparing water and food. Shutting off utilities. Meeting points. Preparing important documents. Keep a flashlight, work gloves, and shoes next to your bed. Prepare a first aid kit. Identify an out-of-area contact person. Never use fire after an earthquake. Do not use the phone except in case of a medical emergency. Identify the items and areas that can form your life triangle. Prepare the life support unit. Family identification information. Water. Energy-rich foods, battery-powered radio and spare batteries, flashlight and spare batteries, first aid kit, manual, personal medications, tissues, toilet paper, some money, multi-purpose knife, blanket, gloves, clothing, shoes, one set of clothing, pen, paper, long rope, whistle. What not to do during an earthquake? Do not run towards stairs or exits. Do not go out onto the balcony. Do not jump from balconies or windows. Do not use elevators. What to do before hazards arise in the workplace? People come first. Carry or place vital records and items of high importance in a safe place. Seal windows with plastic sheeting using tape. Ensure that water, gas, and electricity sources are turned off by trained personnel. Move items away from windows and to areas where water cannot reach them. Secure shelves, cabinets, and other items with tape to prevent them from tipping over. Store outdoor items in a safe location inside the building. Take a list of workers, insurance, financial records, inventory, emergency plans, and equipment with you. Assign a worker to direct people during the re-entry process. Identification of safe places in living and working areas. Under heavy tables and benches, metal-legged, sturdy construction. Corridor interiors. Corners of rooms and arches. Areas away from breakable glass, windows, mirrors, pictures, or heavy bookcases and furniture that could fall on you. Identify safe locations outside the building. Stay away from buildings, trees, telephone and electrical poles, overpasses, and walkways. What to do during an earthquake? If you can evacuate the building you are in within 10 to 15 seconds of the earthquake, do so immediately. Otherwise, find a safe place. Stay calm as soon as you feel the first tremor. Do not panic. Panic will prevent you from thinking clearly and may cause you to act irrationally or without thinking. Being able to think clearly depends on your preparation and planning, not on what you do during the disaster. If you cannot evacuate the building, go to the previously designated triangle of life area and lie down on your side in the fetal position. Do not run around or stand up. If you are indoors, stay calm. Stay inside. Do not run outside the building. Do not use elevators or stairs, as these are the first places to be endangered. Take shelter under a sturdy table or similar object. The safest location within the building and room should be identified and known. Keep your head down and stay still. Lie down next to an object that is no higher than 1.5 meters, a solid, fixed countertop with nothing above it, etc. As if you were in the womb, as this increases the likelihood of a life triangle forming. Stay away from windows and glass objects. Stay away from bookshelves, cabinets, and other furniture or materials that could tip over or fall. When you feel it, shout earthquake, and everyone should go to the previously designated safe locations. A second earthquake may occur, so remain calm. Do not use phones except in emergencies. What to do after an earthquake? Preparation for a possible earthquake includes what to do and what not to do in the event of shocks, fires, and devastating damage that occur after the shaking stops. Remain calm and act calmly in the face of the aforementioned dangers. First, consider life-threatening situations. Remember that you may be alone for more than 72 hours. Preparing for aftershocks after an earthquake, even if they are less severe than the main earthquake, aftershocks can cause additional damage and may lead to the complete collapse of damaged structures. Aftershocks can occur in the first hours, days, weeks, or even months following an earthquake. Assist injured individuals and those trapped under debris. Provide first aid wherever possible. Do not move seriously injured individuals to avoid causing further injury. Call for help. Stay outside and away from damaged buildings. Do not return to buildings until authorities confirm they are safe. Use the phone only in case of emergency. Important considerations in an emergency. Do not attempt to clean up spilled medications, bleach, gas, or flammable liquids. Leave areas where you smell gas or other chemicals. Carefully open the lids of toilets and cabinets. In case of damage, inspect the entire length of chimneys. Unnoticed damage can cause a fire. Sabotage. Sabotage refers to actions carried out by individuals from outside the workplace, such as attacks using explosive materials. Precautions to be taken against sabotage. Controlling access to the work area and monitoring people and vehicles entering and exiting the area. Ensuring that the work environment is well protected and that security measures are properly implemented. Ensuring that flammable and explosive materials within the work area are properly secured and, if possible, not stored in the work environment. Storage areas and similar locations within the work environment should not be constructed along paths or walls, but rather in the central areas of the work environment. During a sudden flood. If you are outside your home, move to higher ground immediately. Immediately leave any low-lying areas or depressions. You must evacuate the flood zone immediately. Never attempt to cross water. If you are in your car during a flood, never attempt to drive on a road covered by water since half of flood-related deaths are related to vehicles. Cars should never be used in areas with floodwaters. If your car breaks down, leave it immediately and go to higher ground. Roads will be flooded. So if your car is submerged in moving water 60 centimeters high, it could be lifted and swept away. What to do before a flood? If it has been raining heavily for an extended period, it is essential to prepare for a flood. Floods occur when the ground becomes saturated with water. Keep a portable, battery-operated radio on hand for emergency information. If you have to stop your vehicle in a flood, try to park it away from riverbanks. Floodwaters can rise quickly and sweep your vehicle away. If you are near water channels, do not let the distance fool you. Dam breaches or sudden heavy rain can cause water in the channels to overflow and result in a sudden flood in the area. If you have been warned by local authorities, turn off all power sources. Turn off the gas valve. Store insurance policies, documents, and other valuable papers in a secure container. You may need to access these documents quickly and easily. Store them in a safe place where they will sustain minimal damage during a flood. What to do during a flood? If you find yourself facing a flood, immediately change your route and try to take a different path. Stay away from flooded areas. Do not attempt to walk, swim, drive, or play in the water. Be cautious of snakes in flooded areas. Stay away from rivers and streams in flooded areas. Do not stand near rising water, sewage outlets, or ditches. Discard all food that has come into contact with floodwater. If you are outside, climb to a high place. You cannot determine the depth of the water. Be cautious of flooding in low-lying areas and on bridges. What to do after a flood? Get checked out at the nearest medical facility. Avoid disaster areas. Even if the water has receded, dangers may still exist. Continue to listen to local broadcasts. Stay away from buildings if floodwaters are still present around them. Report damaged water pipes, gas, and electrical lines to the appropriate authorities. Avoid smoking inside buildings. Check for fire damage. There may be gas leaks or electrical short circuits. Investigate gas leaks. Investigate damage to the electrical system. Check water and sewer pipes. Check for loose plaster, walls, and ceilings. Take photos of the building and other structures for insurance claims. Working with chemical materials. Chemicals enter the body in 3 ways. First aid rules for chemical exposure. Inhalation. Move to fresh air. If symptoms persist, consult the workplace physician. Skin contact. Remove contaminated clothing and wash the skin with plenty of water and soap. If irritation persists, consult the workplace physician. Contact with the eyes. Rinse the eyes with plenty of water for approximately 15 minutes. If irritation persists, consult the workplace physician. If swallowed, drink water and rinse your mouth with plenty of water. Do not induce vomiting. Contact the workplace physician. Ensures that announcements can be heard throughout the entire factory to ensure that employees are directed correctly in case of an emergency. These doors are to be used in emergency exits. They can only be opened from the inside. These doors should only be used in emergency exit situations and are not intended for daily use. These are illuminated signs that indicate exit directions in emergency situations. Emergency evacuation plans. Evacuation plans covering the entire facility are available at key points. All units have evacuation plans for their own areas. Emergency evacuation teams must be established. In the event of an emergency evacuation, everyone should proceed to the T-assembly point in an orderly manner without panicking, following these plans. Emergency evacuation teams. If more than one employee is assigned to a task, they will work in teams. Each team will have a team leader. In case of emergencies, a responsible person will be assigned from among the employees. In workplaces with fewer than 10 employees and classified as low risk, assigning one person for search, rescue, evacuation, and firefighting is sufficient. Under the scope of occupational safety and health. In low-risk workplaces, one team for every 20 employees. In hazardous workplaces, up to every 15 employees. In high-risk workplaces, one emergency response team member for every 10 employees. One first aid responder must be present. First aid station. First aid kits are available in all units for initial response to injuries. A first aid kit is also available in the corridor. Emergency exit meeting point. When the emergency alarm sounds, everyone should use the emergency exit doors to gather at the T-assembly area. Building evacuation officers ensure that no one remains in their respective areas before leaving the building and reporting the situation to the emergency response leader at the assembly area.